This is why you need to listen to this score. Hi, I'm Thomas James Owen. I'm a composer and orchestrator for film, games, and television. And this is music that was written for the film 2001: A Space Odyssey. The music for 2001 was, of course, written by the great composer Alex North. Sort of. The film 2001 is one of the most talked about sci-fi films ever made. Indeed, it's one of the most talked about films of any genre ever made, and for good reason. But the visuals, the storytelling aside, not to mention that really trippy ending, it is equally famous for its immediately recognizable music, such as this. That, of course, is the Blue Danube Waltz by Johann Strauss II, or even this music. Thus Spake Zarathustra by one of the other Strausses, Richard in this case, or even this beautiful music. And that is the Adagio from the Gayane Ballet Suite by composer Aram Khachaturian. But the music I played you right at the beginning of this video never appeared in the film. See, in early stages of the production, Kubrick called up his old pal, Alex North, who had also written the score for an earlier Kubrick film, Spartacus, and he asked him to get cracking on the score for 2001: A Space Odyssey, and North duly obliged. Now, in the meantime, Kubrick has got footage from his film coming in and he needs to start editing it into some sort of rough cut. So to get a feel for the rough cut, he needs the music. But for the composer to start writing the music, he sort of needs the rough cut. So we're in a catch-22 situation. Now, the way around this is for a director to find music that's already written that is roughly the vibe they're looking for. And they can then edit the film to that while they await the actual score from the composer. This is called temp music because it's supposed to be temporary. Supposed to be. Kubrick used as his temp music, among other things, the Blue Danube Waltz, Thus Spake Zarathustra, and the Adagio from the Gayane Ballet Suite. And with that in mind, you might have figured out what happened. Kubrick edited his sequences while listening to these temp tracks, and the music just sort of stuck for him. As Kubrick himself said, when you are editing a film, it's very helpful to be able to try out different pieces of music to see how they work with the scene. And with a little more care and thought, these temporary tracks can become the final score. Kubrick abandoned entirely North's score and stuck with what was already working for him. Fair dues, it is a creative industry and everyone in it is used to having some or all of their ideas end up on the cutting room floor. It goes with the territory. The only snag was nobody told North his score wasn't being used. The story goes like this. At the premiere of the film in New York in 1968, North gets comfy in his seat to watch, with everybody else, this much anticipated movie with his score on it. Only for it to slowly dawn on him as all 160 minutes of the first cut wore on, not 1 second of his score was going to be used. North was understandably devastated, and aside from a small piece of music that appeared on a compilation album, nothing was heard of, literally, of the score again, until in 1993, 2 years after North's death, his old pal, fellow composer Jerry Goldsmith, produced and conducted an entirely new recording of the complete score. Now, interestingly, this recording also included a main theme that North had written for 2001, which appeared on the album as the last track. However, it later turned out that this main theme was not actually the main theme for 2001: A Space Odyssey at all, but the main theme for a completely different television documentary that North had been working on around the same time. The track for that documentary accidentally appeared on the album for 2001. As Hal himself might say, it can only be attributable to human error. However, it's largely because of Goldsmith's recording and the eventual release of the original recordings in 2007 that we can start to imagine how the film 2001 A Space Odyssey might have hit us if, instead of watching this, we had seen the same footage but with North's original piece called Space Station Docking, which would have made the sequence like this. Change the music, change the scene entirely. Kubrick himself said of this that however good our best film composers may be, they are not a Beethoven, a Mozart, or a Brahms. Why use music that is less good when there is such a multitude of great orchestral music available from the past and from our own time? Now, whether you agree with Kubrick or not, I think this story is the reason why you need to listen to this score, by which I mean the Alex North one.